Awesome. So Ismail, this video is now recording. I am displaying an AeroDPC practice here to go through a training series on all the different capabilities within the EMR. Ismail, can you confirm that the AeroDPC screen is being displayed on your screen?
Yep, loud and clear.
Awesome. So when you log into AeroDPC for the first time, you'll be taken to the dashboard page. It's going to show all of these different widgets that you can customize, you can resize, and actually move these around. To do so, you'll go up here and click on your username, and you can click the Edit Dashboard button. And then from there, what you can do is you can actually move these widgets and place them into the different locations that you would want to have them on the actual chart.
Nice.
And so if there's something that you're not going to use, for instance, the reminders or the recent activity, you can move this down or even delete it out. And then if there's something that you'd like to focus in on, you can actually move this up and place this in the location that you need to, and just kind of resize these. As you can see, they kind of jumble around, and you can resize them and make them the right size and in the right location, and then just save the dashboard. Okay. Obviously, this can look any way that you want to, so this is completely customizable. Again, you can remove some of these out or add them back in by clicking that username and then clicking Edit Dashboard. On the dashboard page, it's going to show you your calendar for the day view. That's by default. And it's also going to tie in with the notifications onto the communication page, inventory onto the inventory page, tasks onto the task page, and the patient snapshot onto the patient page. So these widgets are all tied to different pages within the EMR.
Gotcha.
Moving over to the patients page, it's going to show a list of all the active patients. If you wanted to see archive patients, you can click that button. If you wanted to see any patients that signed up for the practice, you can click this Patients to Confirm button. And then to manually add a new patient, you can click this button here, the New Patient button.
Right.
We're going to go ahead and go into a patient's chart. So when you enter into a patient's chart, on the left-hand side, you're going to have your menu items, all of the patient demographic information, all the way down to their medical history and files. All of these subsections can be expanded out, just like this.
Ben, I'm assuming that these will be populated according to the intake form that you guys create, or we can create from our end?
Exactly. So currently on AeroDPC, the questionnaire that puts them through and has them sign up on your practice has all of these questions that the patient fills out. So the patient would have information like demographic information completely filled out for you already, so you're not having to go back and capture any new information from them. Obviously, if they didn't,
but the provider can fill in any missing details manually, right?
Exactly. So maybe they didn't put in the correct address. You can actually fill that out here. You can add in all this different information. All you need to do is click the Save Patient Profile when you make updates on the patient's chart.
Okay.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and highlight here the patient's phone number, email is listed. You can easily call the patient from the EMR by clicking on their phone number and then selecting the number that you want to call from. You can also email them as well by clicking their email. And then moving over onto the interaction section. So this section is going to highlight all the different interactions within the EMR. So anything from charting a note to emailing them, documenting fax interactions, sending forms, ordering labs, e-prescribing, generating sales invoices, or texting the patient. This can all be done from the interaction drop-down box right here. Most often used is the clinic note. So there's templates in the system, which I'll highlight, that you can use by using the / and then typing in the template name. Depending on what you have saved on that template is going to auto-populate all of that template information into this chart note. So you can have a pre-formatted list of all the things that you want to include on your clinic note. And then in terms
of Ben, if there was a doctor who was a urologist or a gynecologist, they could create their own template based on the specialty, and it'll just literally pop up here and they can just fill it up by themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll actually jump over here.
Nice.
Just to highlight that for you. On the templates page, what you can do is you can come in here, click template. You can create the template. Let's say you list this as urology. And you can put in all of the different information based on the patient or Wildcards allow you to generate a response in that location and tab through the chart note pretty quickly from wildcard location to wildcard location. So oftentimes we would see something along the lines of the patient, name, age, gender, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would see space down here for maybe current medications.
Oh, okay.
Medical history, allergies. You wanted to include like family history or vaccines or labs or even insurance, you can do that. And then move down into wildcard. So this would be like, what are you being seen for today? Like this. Add the wildcard location after that. And that's going to allow the provider to just respond to that location. So if you have multiple questions that you're asking the patient, you can add those wildcards.
You can just customize every single question you want.
Exactly. And then
based on the specialty,
you can just click through those different wildcards. So I'll just go ahead and save this.
Got it.
The public versus private. So if it's private, that means that whoever's creating the template, it will only be available to them. So if the urologist, for example, is creating the template, it's saved as private. Only the urologist would be able to utilize and see this template. Whereas if you put the public over here to public, any user within your practice could then use this template. So if you have general template,
like a generic intake form, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Like clinic notes that you want available for every provider, you can make that public as well. So I'll just go ahead and save this. So you can see it. Now that we've got that saved, we'll go back up to this test patient and open in no interaction. And what you'll notice now is the information here is going to populate based off of the patient's information. So if they had medications on file, medical history, allergies, any of that would be listed. And then these wildcards, you can notice that it turns into a link when you put your mouse over it. You can actually click there and start to type. And you can tab to the next wildcard location. If you're on a PC, you can press the F2 button and it tabs right to that next spot. So you can actually start to type without even having to touch your mouse, which is pretty awesome.
Gotcha.
And then you can save that draft and it's now going to be listed as an interaction under the interaction list. You can also filter through the different interactions. So if there's a lot here, you've got different chart notes, you've got forms that were sent, text messages or phone call, documentation, labs, e-prescriptions, all of that would be listed. And so if you have hundreds of interactions listed, you can either search through the different interactions by keyword, or you can even just filter through. If you're looking for something specific, i.e. a form, it would show you all of the form interactions at one time.
Right.
Moving down here to tasks. So the new task option is going to allow you to create a task within the practice. You can assign it to a specific user. So you can click on any one of the users that you want to assign the task to. You can assign a due date for it. You can also link it to a patient's chart so it's visible on that patient's chart as a task. Once you create this task and you hit save, it's now viewable in the practice as this right here. And you can see who created it. And then anyone within the practice can also comment back and forth on it. So this is really useful for creating any kind of actionable items that need to be done specific to a patient.
For example, a patient needs more follow-up or ask this patient they want to sign up for the annual plan, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And if this task were assigned to a different user within the practice, they receive a notification about that task on their dashboard, and they'll see that, and they'll also see it on the task page within AeroDPC.
Okay.
As far as the sticky note, you can use this any way that you want to. A lot of practices will put information about how to remember the patient here, or information that is not going to be saved over here on the left-hand side referring to the patient. Again, this can be used any way that you choose to. It doesn't have to actually relate to the patient. The patient does not.
It's totally private.
It's totally private. They do not see anything related to the tasks, anything about the sticky note. They won't see any of the interactions that you have locked. So the interactions are default locked here up in the upper left-hand corner. And you can unlock those by clicking that button and then hitting save and sign. And now that button up here, instead of being locked, it went to green. So that shows when it's green, it's now being placed onto the patient portal because it's unlocked. Whereas this one here is still locked, so the patient would not see this interaction. Anything that's typed into this box is not going onto their patient portal.
I see.
As far as appointments, you can book appointments with this patient from this location. You'll also see the upcoming appointments, and you can also view past appointments. These are all specific to just this patient. So it's going to look a little different than your calendar page. And then as far as the billing section, so it's going to highlight the next invoice for the patient. You can turn on billing tiers. You can add payment methods. You can email them an ACH link to add their bank account, or you can even add them to another household. The head of the household generally is whoever has the payment method connected to the account. So if you have multiple family members, you can add all of them to the head of the household, and the head of the household then is generating the invoices and paying for the rest of the household. You can also add custom subscriptions. So if you were to build different products into the EMR, you could save those and come and add those as a custom subscription. And then any historical data for the billing is going to be listed under the billing history. So this is all housed within the billing section. Outside of that, I'm going to move over to the calendar page. So on the calendar page, you'll notice right away, there's two different calendars here. They are labeled differently with different colors. You have several options to add patient appointments onto the calendar. The first one is to just double click into any time slot. That pulls up this new calendar item box. You can select it as an event or even as an appointment. If you select appointment, you can select the patient. You can generate automated reminders here to go out via SMS or email prior to the appointment, or you could delete those. You can make it a video call, which generates a video call link onto the calendar appointment. That will send that to the patient as well, so they can log into the video call. And then again, you can set the duration. You can make this a recurring calendar event. And then you can place it onto different calendars.
Got it.
So we'll go ahead and just save that so you can see what it looks like when it populates here. So that is now a calendar event. And again, you can do that in any time slot. You can change this view to go see it by month, by week, by the work week, or even by the day. The second thing to show you is the scheduler. So the scheduler is going to allow you to create scheduling pages that the patient can use and go and sign up for a time and a date that aligns with the provider's availability and their availability. So go ahead and click the edit button here, show you all the different options that you can use to create a scheduler page. So for example, if you wanted to have new patient urology appointment, you could create it just like that. You can change the duration, the booking notice, the cancel notice, how far out they want to book that. So you can change this to month.
Wow. Yeah, it's very convenient.
Buffer time, if you wanted time in between patient appointments, you could have a buffer time. You could also reduce this to 0. So you could have a 9:30 appointment to 10, a 10 to 10:30, a 10:30 to 11, or you could add some time in between those appointments. The calendars is going to allow you to choose what calendar it's going to book onto and see the availability of that provider. So if you have a different calendar for every provider, what you can do is you can come in here and click Advanced, and then you can select the different calendars that you want to verify there's availability with that provider for this specific self-scheduler. So if this is a new patient urology appointment, you would want to have a urology calendar that you can come in here and click. So that way the patient is only able to book on times that the urologist is available for that appointment.
Got it.
Opening hours, you can customize these pretty much by the day. You can have as many day customizations that you need. Essentially, this allows you to have a very flexible schedule. So if you have appointment availability that's different every single day of the week, you can actually come in here and add different days, and change the times as well.
Oh, like if someone's only available on a weekend, they can just click Saturday, Sunday, and then that's it.
Yeah,
or
so
only in the evening.
Available on the weekend, what you can do is do Saturday and Sunday like this and have it just like that.
Oh, sweet. I can make it every single week.
Yep. The
Nice.
booking flow here, so automatic, it's going to allow patients to automatically book onto the calendar. There's no need for a confirmation. Whereas manual, if they were to select an appointment date and time, it will send you a notification that this has to be confirmed. It will also populate onto the calendar as a requested appointment, in which you can confirm from the AeroDPC calendar as well.
Got it.
Posted page shows them a standard confirmation that they booked the appointment, whereas the custom page allows you to reroute the patient over to a different website. You just insert the URL here, and then after they confirm the appointment, they go and select the date and time, they put in the information, they're then routed over to, let's say, your practice website. Reminders, you can send out confirmation emails. You can also do text messages. This can be as far out as 168 hours before the event. So you can have this
just to make sure.
Yeah, it's as far out as you need to. So you can do 1 hour prior to the event, 12 hours or 24 hours prior to the event, and then even 7 full days prior to the event.
Oh, that's really good. You don't get those no-shows.
Yeah. Custom fields, so you can add different questions as a part of the sign up. So if you need to ask specific information about the patient's information, you can add those here. So right now it's just set to the name and the email. And then the page styles, these are some things that you can customize, i.e. the scheduler, URL, and part of that, you can make this more similar to the type of appointment. And then you can change all this information here as well. And then when you click the view page button, this is going to look very similar to like a Calendly page. And the patient's able to go in, select the date, time, and then fill out those questions and request the appointment.
Interesting.
Here for you. Awesome. So that is the calendar. As far as the communications page, so this is going to highlight all of the notifications that are coming into the practice from either patients or customers or contacts, or even referral offices or pharmacies, anyone else that would message, email, or call or fax your practice. So you can expand each box. When there's text messages that have come in that are unread, they'll all be listed here in bold in a dark blue. Once they do go to red, they'll still be listed here, but they will no longer be bolded in dark blue. You can also click the split screen option to view all of the messages that have come into the practice. Lab results are returned electronically to this location. They're also returned back to the patient's chart. Incoming faxes looks very similar to unread SMS. They'll be listed here. And once you action the item, you can actually remove it from the list. Form submissions, these are all the notifications for forms being returned in the system. This is going to be the same information that's listed on the forms page. And then drafts in the system, anything that's not signed by a provider, but it's put into draft, allows you to come back and revisit that chart note. Knowing that you need to go back and complete it, they'll be saved in the drafts. And then scheduled communications, you can actually do a scheduled email or SMS from this location. So if you wanted to send something in the future over to a patient, you could set this up to email them or text them a week from today about something that you wouldn't have to send that at that time, but rather you could set this up to send it in the future.
Like a follow-up email, like a follow-up invitation to, how have you been? What are your charts looking like? Did you try that new medication? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Something prospective. Yeah, got it.
Awesome. The tasks page, it's going to list all the tasks within the practice. This is the one that we looked at earlier. Again, anyone can come in here and comment on these tasks. You'll see who commented on them and what time they commented. And then once that task is complete, you can actually click the Mark Complete button. And now that task becomes complete, and it's no longer listed on the task page. The default task page is going to show the user's tasks. If you were to click the View Practice Tasks, you would see all of the practice tasks, no matter what user they're assigned to. Forms. So this is going to allow you to send custom consent forms and questionnaires. So the questionnaires are set up to ask as many questions as you possibly need to. It's pretty easy to create a new form. Once you do, there are questions that you can generate based on the different types of responses. So if you wanted to ask like a multiple choice question, you could set this up to have the possible response answers. You could have a mixed response. You can ensure that you're essentially either asking a single question or an open answer question, allowing the patient just to fill out the response here with any kind of word length on it for the question. You can also ask them to attach files. You can include like a body map drawing and have them highlight on a diagram, where something hurts or where they're having an issue as a part of the questionnaire. You can have them sign the document as well through an e-signature. And there's many different options in here. You can even embed, code into the questionnaire. I think I highlighted most of these, but there's a lot of different options that you can go through and look. There's also a questions library that you can come look at. So let's just go ahead and select one of these just to show you. All of these questions are pre-formatted in the system. You can go through them, and let's say you want to include one of these in your questionnaire. You can just click this box and then import questions. Now it's listed as a question on the questionnaire. It's already pre-formatted with all the same information here.
That's good.
So the questionnaires are going to be generating a lot of patient responses. The consent forms are generally used for e-signatures, having the patient agreement, having the patient sign that document. You can attach that consent form over to the questionnaire pretty easily by just clicking the consent forms button. And then you can click this button and hit OK to attach that consent form when it's sent. So essentially, this questionnaire right now is only one question. If you were to attach that consent form, it would be listed up here as the top, and it would have a requirement for you to click on that and sign it before you can submit the questionnaire back.
Got it.
And then in terms of the consent forms, let's take a look here. Consent forms have two different options for you to create. So you can use the rich text editor, which looks very similar to Microsoft Word, and it allows you to type into the document versus the native PDF. If you already have a PDF document that you have filled out already and you want to use it, you can actually upload that PDF here. And then what you can do is you can assign the signature fields, text fields, date sign fields, any of that information onto that PDF document, and then send that as a consent form that they can go and sign. So the two main differences between the questionnaires and consent forms is that questionnaires is pretty formatted questions that they can respond to, whereas the consent forms is going to allow them to sign and date any pre-existing PDF or a new PDF that you create.
Understandable.
The last thing to highlight on the forms is when you click on this forms button, it brings you to this page. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there's something called standard forms. When you click on that, here's all of the forms that we have uploaded currently into AeroDPC for you. All you have to do is just click the import button. When you do that, it imports it, and then you can open it, and you'll notice here all of the information's already listed for you, and you can actually just use this exact form if you wanted to.
Good to know.
Outside of that, there's a couple other features I'll just highlight pretty quickly. The history is going to show all of the forms within the system. Reports. So this is something that a lot of practices never really look at, but it's got a lot of usefulness to it. So if you were to have a PHQ-9 that you wanted to send out to the patients, and you had a response of maybe 100 patient PHQ-9s, you can come in here and select the PHQ-9 form, and it'll actually show you some reporting analytics across your entire practice based on the responses and trends, which is pretty awesome. You can make custom date selections here. So if you want to see, hey, in the past 2 months, I want to see all of the patient responses for the PHQ-9 and see if there's trends, whether trends up or trends down in terms of certain responses. And then lastly, the settings page. So this is going to allow you to customize a lot of the different settings in terms of how the patient's receiving the form notification, how they're being routed after they complete the form, what the form looks like when they log in. All of that stuff is listed under the form settings. And then the last thing to highlight on the forms page is you can send the form to the client here from this location. You can click that. You can select the form that you want to send. And you can start typing in the patient's name. And if they're already a patient within your practice, they'll populate here. You can click on that and hit the send form option. This is the same capability of sending the form from this location, but there is a slight difference that I would like to highlight. So sending the form from this location is going to be for the questionnaires. You can only send questionnaires from this location, whereas the actual forms page allows you to send a consent form or a questionnaire from this location. The reason it's different is because the questionnaires from the patient's chart is going to already come back into the patient's chart when it's sent from there. If you're sending something like a consent form from this location, it will come back into the practice, into the forms page. But if they're not already a patient in the system, it's not going to place it onto their chart, obviously.
I see.
So this allows you to send forms out to anyone, whether they're a patient or not. If they already are a patient, generally recommend to send it from their chart instead of sending it from this location.
Makes sense.
Contacts. So you can create contacts in the EMR. If you want to label these, you can place them into groups. So you can create contact groups, for pharmacies or different image centers. You can have as many contact groups as you need. You can save their phone number, email, and fax number. So essentially, if someone is calling you or texting you, let's say one of your contacts, sent you an email, they didn't hear back from you, so they gave you a call, their contact information would populate here with their contact name instead of just a phone number. So when they're saved as a contact, you're able to see who's calling, who's texting, who's faxing, versus just seeing the fax number or phone number. Additionally, outside of the contacts and contact groups, you can also utilize the dial pad. So if you want to call out or text out to any number, whether they're a contact or a patient, you can utilize this dial pad feature as well. Inventory within the system, so you can actually add inventory for in-house dispensing if you choose to do so. This is something that allows you to utilize an inventory management system within the EMR. So every time something is dispensed, automatically deducts it from the quantity in stock. And you can also set low inventory percentages. So if you were to dispense 80 out of 100 of your medication that you have, it would actually pop up as a notification that you need to reorder this medicine.
Well, currently we're not doing any prescribing, but still good to know. It's a nice little feature.
Okay, awesome. The file drive. So this is the practice file drive. Any documents that are saved within the practice can be listed here. Every single patient will also have their own file drive. So while this file drive here is showing all of the practice information, anything that is not related to a patient, the patient also has a file drive that anything that is uploaded onto this patient's chart as an attachment or a document would be listed here. So i.e. forms are returned and they're listed on the patient's chart, they will also be listed in the files drive. Or if the patient were to email you something with an attachment, it will be listed on the files drive. Or the patient were to text you a photo, it will be listed on the files drive here on the patient's chart.
Great.
So reports, right now, all of these reports are going to be geared towards financial subscription invoices. So anything in terms of the bank transfers from the patients over to payments that are processing or even unpaid invoices, i.e. you processed a payment for a patient and their credit card number changed or their bank has insufficient funds and that went to failed or unpaid. You can actually view all of those by clicking the view button and you can click in and see which patient had a failed payment. Last thing I'll highlight here is monthly revenue. You can come in and click the line item breakdown and it will show every single line item interaction that generated revenue for your practice. You can also click that by provider as well. So it's going to highlight the provider for the patient for the invoice.
Oh, kind of like a leaderboard.
Exactly, yeah. Then you can also filter that by date range. So if you wanted to see month to date, last month, year to date, or even last year, you can do that from this location. Companies, this is going to allow you to establish companies within AeroDPC. So if you have a specific individual that is paying for all of the company employees, whether it's all of the costs associated, just the subscription prices, or both, you can set that up here. Once they're created, when you come back to click on companies, they'll be listed here for all the different companies, and you can click into that company. You can see all of the patients that are saved within that company and how much that company is paying, just as you would see on a patient's chart.
Nice.
And then the last page here, settings, there's a few things I'm going to highlight. The first one is the practice info page. So this is going to list the practice phone number that patients can reach the providers at, the practice fax number, and the practice email address for quick reference. The forwarding to is going to allow you to establish where this specific call is going to get routed to over to any of these providers if you choose to set that up. And you can also record a greeting. So if a patient were to call this number, they can leave a voicemail based on the greeting that you saved in the system. Moving over to user management. So here's all the providers right now in the system. When a new user is provided, the username is created, and the email then is put in for that user. And the user will log into the system with their username and not their email. And then e-prescription permissions. I know you mentioned you wouldn't be doing that, but if you were to ever set that up, you could change these out for doctor, down to mid-level, down to prescribe on behalf of, all the way down to staff. You can also save the user's signature here. So for this user, you can do something along the lines of this. And now it's saved on their chart. So when that user goes to sign something, they did a like my provider signature, it would populate with that signature on the note. You can also add a profile picture for the users, although it's not required. So billing, there's going to be age-based billing tiers, and there's also custom products and services. So you can create a custom product and service relatively quickly by labeling this, giving a description, giving it a price here. And one-time charges, pretty self-explanatory. It's only going to charge that patient that one time. Versus a recurring subscription, you can set this up to become a recurring monthly charge. You can set this up to be, semi-annual or even an annual subscription charge.
Hey, Ben, I got a question. What if a patient unsubscribes? Is there a way to kind of block their access to their provider and, basically hey, if you want to continue with us, you got to subscribe for another month?
Yeah, so if they unsubscribe, you can essentially archive their profile, and that would block them from being able to utilize their patient portal. And from there, if they wanted to have services with the provider again, the reinitiation step would be to process their payment for what is owed, which you can do essentially from their chart. You can try to add a new subscription and try to process their payment. If it goes through, then you can have them set up with the provider once more.
Got it.
The calendar page, this is really just going to show you what calendars are already saved in the EMR. You can click the new calendar, create a new calendar, list it as a different calendar name, give it a different color if you wanted to, assign a time zone, and then set up appointment reminders for text messages and emails for when patient appointments are booked onto this specific calendar. They automatically receive that appointment reminder. The common examples over here are these, and these can be copied and pasted over into these description blocks. Templates, I did highlight this just for a second earlier today, but we'll show you that there are a lot of different options for you to pre-populate these shortcuts into this template. Additionally, you can add tables, based on all of this description box here. You can add bullet points. You can even add HTML code into this template if you needed to. the patient sign up. So this email is being sent to the patients after they sign up for the EMR. AeroDPC subscription, you won't have to worry about this page. And then ERX Paradigm, unless you're e-prescribing, you again will not ever have to come back into this page.
Not right now, but good to know. So
yeah, that's everything that I was going to highlight. So Ismail, if you had any other questions for the recording, I can go over those.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. You've been very thorough, and I think I guess there's a lot of learning by immersion involved, but I guess yeah, that's how we're gonna learn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Click on the button, see what happens.
Well, awesome. What I'll go ahead and do is I'll stop this recording.